how's it going, everybody? Welcome to FoundFlix. On this Indie Explain, we're looking at the reality-bending nightmare Stopmotion, following a stop-motion animator who struggles to control her demons after the loss of her overbearing mother. I've been interested in this one since I first heard about it at Fantastic Fest last year. Just the subject matter alone regarding stop-motion animation piqued my interest. The particular art form is especially difficult to create, and works well with the story presented, all about Ella doing her best to step out of her mother's shadow and for once create something of her own. However, creating isn't so easy, Ella finds out the hard way, as she becomes so consumed by her art that it causes her mind to run rampant, and she begins to further lose touch with reality, leading her deeper and deeper into the darkness until she passes the point of no return. So let's check out Stopmotion, breaking down the story, including Ella's important personal journey, just what is real and not, along with explaining the bonkers ending. In a void of some kind, there's what appears to be an odd, dark, floating egg glistening in the light. We witness Ella cutting a rug. As the lights flash over her, we can see a kind of split occurring, one normal side and one that looks darker, definitely implying two drastically different personalities within her. And we can guess which one is going to be trying to take over soon enough. Ella spends much of her time working with her mother on stop-motion film projects. As Suzanne is in failing health, she has enlisted her daughter to continue her work for her. Ella appears so focused and stressed on following her mother's commands that her voice sounds a million miles away. That's how in her own head she really is. She deliberately inches the little Cyclops puppet and snaps a still frame with each movement. Suzanne keeps needling her for her unacceptable work, and when watching back the animated frames, she decides to scrap the entire thing. We're gonna have to start all over again. Even with this single interaction, we already understand a lot about their relationship. Suzanne is driven by perfection and clearly believes that her daughter isn't as capable. She does still allow her to help with menial tasks like cutting up her mother's steak. Ella sheepishly brings up that she could lend a hand coming up with ideas, and her mom says nothing, a sharp tension taking over the room. She's like, what an insult for you to suggest ideas to me? How dare you? We see just how much Ella has been repressed when her mom in the morning actually does ask her to pitch some of her ideas. What you got, girl? Yet even when given the opportunity, Ella stammers for a single thought. She stays silent, and Suzanne gives her an insulting little hand pat. Oh, pop it. It's already become abundantly clear how toxic this relationship is, and Ella has been completely put under her mother's thumb, and at this point is incapable of doing anything due to her mother's treatment, repressing her into being merely a tool for her own use and nothing more. No doubt because of this, Ella also spends a lot of her time out at the dance club pub, which allows her to at least try to be herself and find herself in some way. She wanders over to a table with some acquaintances along with her boyfriend Tom. She emerges from her cave, he remarks when seeing her, and gives her a kiss. The rest of the gang, including Tony's sister Poppy, discuss their most recent animation work and show off some clips. Ella is clearly jealous. It's really good, she says with a strained smile. She stays the night at Tom's place, and she wakes him up by covering up his nose. He chokes awake, Ella giggling at his reaction. She tells him she has to go. Playtime is over, she states dramatically. He attempts to get her to stay, but she rebuffs him. She's gotta get home before mom wakes up. He mentions her film, which she corrects is actually her mother's, and he agrees that she is a legend in the medium. But as Ella points out, her health is quickly declining. She has made a promise to help her mom finish her last film. Suzanne is the brain and she's the hands. That's the way it is. He's curious. Doesn't she want to make her own films? Find her own voice? I don't have my own voice, she replies glumly. This is important too, as we really don't get how much she's been affected by her mother's treatment. At this point, she has such little confidence in herself that she really can't do anything on her own. Ella sneaks back home and climbs into bed. As soon as she starts getting settled in, her mom calls for her poppet. It's time to get to work. Ella whips up another steak, and mom tries futilely to utilize her silverware. She gives up, and so she just shoves the meat right into her mouth, gnawing off a hunk. Okay then. In the studio, it's more of the same poking and prodding of her daughter. Suzanne just wants to finish the film before she dies. Is that such a burden? 2 millimeters, she growls, and Ella moves the figure as told. It's not to Suzanne's liking, and she gets stuck on a word. The overloaded electricity crackles, and mom tells her to focus on the puppet. She instructs her to put her hands on it and don't you dare move a muscle. Don't you dare move. She starts slurring again, and the power blows out completely. Ella uses her phone light to find her mother. She startles her, grabbing at her face, and they get her to the hospital. Sadly, Suzanne has fallen into a coma, and Ella is still miles away, remarking that she doesn't even look real. Seeing her like this has really made an impact on Ella, but also now that her overbearing mother is out of the picture, what will become of her? No one to tell you what to do, you know. Tom consoles her, the words still muffled and not getting through. After taking a bath, she enters a room, finding her mother on the ground in a hospital gown. She turns to face her and she snaps into a weird meat puppet in her place. In bed, Tom asks how she's holding up, and Ella is determined to finish her mother's final opus. As she doesn't want to return home, Tom sets her up with a place in a rundown building that he manages. She's drawn to one unit in particular and paces through the old but, still quite livable flat. She's excited to fully move in, while Tony thought she would just be using it as a workspace. Well, in that case, I can stay with you, he offers, which he turns down as he would only distract her from her goal. He vows that he's going to take care of her, telling her that he'll be back later with some dinner. Ella hoofs her equipment upstairs, encountering a little girl. She blocks her path up the stairs a few times until she finally moves out of the way. Ella closes the curtains, shuts off the lights, and stares intently at the set. It's time to get animating. Oddly, when pacing around the set, the Cyclops figure moves on the screen, mirroring her movements. She scrubs back through the previous scenes and picks up where she left off with her mother. She cracks her knuckles in anticipation and reaches out for the puppet, but finds that she can't do it. Her mom has messed her up so good to the point of complete inaction. The little girl is heard singing, and she comes out into the hall seeing figures at the frosted door. The girl comes out and follows after her, peeking inside the apartment. She's curious what she's doing, and Ella fills her in on how stop-motion animation works. She goes right for the figure, and in moving it loses tons of work in the process. Ella gets upset, but catches her saying it's fine, it's just delicate, be careful. The little girl understands that this process must take ages, so, why even bother? Because she likes it and is good at it, really feeling that she is bringing something to life. She fills the kid in on the story. Mrs. Cyclops traded one eye with God to see her own destiny, but what she saw was her own death, the Cyclops coming to her body on the ground. She asks the girl what she thinks about it, and she finds it all a bit boring. Ella is miffed, but wonders how she could improve it. The girl suggests to make a whole new story instead, and teases that she has a better one in mind. Wanna hear it? The girl starts on her tale. It's about a scared girl in the woods that is scared because she's lost, and someone is coming. Ella asks who exactly, and she changes the subject to the wax that Ella nervously fiddles with all the time. It's mortician's wax, usually used to gussy up dead bodies for funerals. The girl snatches it away and tells her that she should definitely make a character out of it. The girl keeps pressing her with more and more questions, and Ella has finally had enough, politely shoving her out of the door. On the way out, the girl finishes slurping her juice box and rudely drops it on the floor. Alone again, Ella hones in on the set, focusing in on the ominous red sky and hearing odd creaking noises. It gives way to the real woods, and Ella is seen standing out there. She's suddenly back in the studio, breathing heavily on the couch. Kind of missing time there, apparently. Night suddenly turns into day, and Tom is there, hearing someone's been busy in the usual muffled, distant tone. To her horror, she sees the Cyclops have both been destroyed, and the set has been changed completely into a scary, naughty wooden environment. There's a new girl figure there as well, made out of the wax, Ella taking all these confusing developments in. Just as the girl suggested, implying that somehow Ella did all this without her actually knowing. She checks the laptop and hits play on a scene with the girl crawling through the woods cooing. She hears leaves crunching, and a dark shadow approaches, causing the girl to quickly flee. Discombobulated, Tony suggests that she take a break, but Ella is never really listening. He's insistent that she needs to eat something, tantalizingly dangling a steak in front of her. Jeez, is that all anybody eats in the movie? What the heck? She shirks away, dialed in completely to the footage, and a small smile crosses her face. She did it! She made something on her own. Well, kind of. After a visit to her comatose mom, Ella decides to have a fresh start and tosses out all of her mom's stuff, continuing on her own with new confidence. Back home, she has an unwelcome visitor in Poppy, who feigns being worried about her. She keeps staring at the set, and Ella invites her in to show off some footage. Poppy seems impressed and assumes that she must have been on drugs, admitting that she gets her best ideas when tripping her tits off. Poppy declares that her work is really good and offers for her to come in and possibly do some work with her and her company, which Ella doesn't seem too thrilled about. Poppy leaves, and the girl is back, excited that she's making her own film. She shows off the footage, beaming with pride, but the girl deflates, her only reacting with a little sigh. Ella asks what's wrong with it, and the girl complains that it doesn't look real. She interjects it's not supposed to, and the girl retrieves a steak, telling her to make a new figure out of it. Ella is disgusted. It's raw dead meat. Yeah, sure, but you can bring it to life. Ella is still a bit uncertain, as it won't match with the earlier scenes or whatever, but the girl pleads with her to give it a try, and teases that she will tell her what happens next in the story. With no alternative, Ella creates the meaty skeleton, and the girl continues on. The next day, the girl runs away and finds a house to hide in, every surface splashed in red. But who is coming for her? A wolf? No, a man no one wants to meet. He comes on 3 nights, a meaty hand pounding on the door. The girl encourages that the new model is much better, and they should use the wax as the girl's skin. They plop the new puppet into place, and the little girl directs her where to place the camera. She carefully positions the model and snaps a photo. She crawls, seeing shadows dancing on the trees. The girl whimpers and runs. She trips and stumbles across the house. Branches snap behind her and she stomps inside, slamming the door. She glances around the room, seeing only a table set and chest there. The shadow gets closer, its crunching footsteps getting louder. She breathes raggedly and the meat man stares right at her. They discuss what to call him. The girl sprinkles some dust on it, ashes to ashes. They agree, the Ash Man. Another day in the can, Ella climbs into bed looking exhausted. We float over the house set, the girl narrating that he will come on 3 nights. The Ash Man appears at the window and the girl shrieks. Oddly, Ella is awoken to loud banging on the door just like in the Ash Man story. She stares through the peephole, seeing nothing. She steps out into the hall and the girl appears wearing an odd mask, giving her a half-hearted boo. She takes Ella by the hand, saying that she has to show her something. Out in those same blue-tinged woods, the girl tells her if they're gonna make the Ash Man, they gotta do it right. Ella is confused. Didn't they do that already? But no, it needs to be made of something deader. Scampering off, the girl guides her to a rotting fox carcass and suggests that they make armature out of bone, wrap them in skin, and give them real teeth and a tongue. Okay, getting a lot weirder around here. Ella agrees, a little meat is one thing, but this is a whole other level, girl. Ella attempts to put her foot down, declaring this is my film, but the girl turns the tables on her. Are you sure about that? Then what happens next? As before, when it comes to being creative with her ideas, Ella is at a complete loss for words. Got you there, lady. The girl sulks off, telling her to do it without her then. Ella considers this, eyeing the fox along with the girl's sweater left behind. She does at least attempt to come up with some ideas on her own, starting with the first night the Ash Man comes, but loses it completely and drops the recorder on the ground in defeat. Back with her mom, she apologizes for not being able to finish her film. She says that she did start her own, but admits that it really wasn't hers, it's just someone else's again. I don't have it in me, do I? She asks rhetorically with no one around to tell her what to think, and without that she seems completely lost. In desperate search of inspirato, she seeks out Polly and those drugs that she mentioned help her come up with ideas. She heads to the restroom, staring in consideration at the tab. Polly checks in on her, reminding her that she was serious about that job. Ella rudely shuts her down, saying she would never work at a place like that. Out in the main room, there's a weird dummy projection on the wall. Howdy, he squeaks, staring with its lifeless doll eyes. Ella smiles oddly and looks to be tripping. Come with me, the dummy calls for her. Look for it, Ella, it encourages. She starts to leave but comes back for Tony and jumps right into bed with him, the light still dramatically pulsing. Their flesh intertwines in and out of the darkness. She rubs her hands all over his body and even pinches it like her mortician's wax, but unlike her dolls, this flesh is real. She returns to the party now all in slow motion and surveys the crowd. She closes her eyes, her mind flooding with images. A dude smashes a bottle onto another guy, leaving quite a wound. She reaches out a hand gently towards it, playing with the blood. She tugs on a shard of glass in his head, now seeing the little girl is there in clown makeup, and she's the one pushing her arm forward. She jams her finger right into the wound and pries it open, the girl egging her on. They are then suddenly back out in the woods, walking with purpose. She comes to the girl lingering over the fox's body along with her tape recorder. The Ash Man comes on 3 nights, she dictates, and when playing it back on the recording, it is distinctly Ella's voice, implying she and the girl are one and the same. What's said next backs this up. Ella smiles, talking to yourself is the first sign of madness, and the girl retorts, look who's talking, really cluing us in that the girl is actually part of Ella. Remember those 2 sides of the personality? They bring the fox's body back to the apartment, and Ella grabs an X-Acto knife, beginning the new construction. Gonna take a lot of time with that knife though, jeez. Once more, it's reiterated that the girl is not real. When pulling back to the hall, Ella is seen all by herself. There's no sign of the girl whatsoever. Definitely not real. This almost made it too obvious. It's her subconscious, that dormant other side of her, encouraging her to delve further into the darkness. They put the new Ash Man 2.0 into place. Much better, the girl concludes. They set the scene with the Ash Man a-comin'. The girl tries to hide, but he still sees her. Ella snaps a shot, resulting in a buzz from the phone. She tries to ignore it, but with each shutter click, the buzz returns, becoming drawn out and distorted, putting her on edge. She goes to answer the phone to nobody on the line, and then sees shadows of legs outside her window, but we cannot make out who it is. Her touch with reality is drifting further and further away. She checks out the staircase, spotting something hideous making its way up. She runs to the other frosted door, seeing the shadow passing by. She locks herself back in her apartment, and thuds approach along with ghostly whispers. The Ash Man is here. Ella tries to stay quiet, covering her mouth with a single tear rolling down her cheek. Just as suddenly, the pounding stops. She rises up to the peephole, greeted by a bloody wide eye there. She gasps, and the darkness takes over, her waking up in the morning confused to Tony's muffled voice. He snaps her back to reality, asking if she took something. Turns out she didn't even take the tab, pulling the baggie out from her boot. She explains about the thing from her movie chasing her, but he tries to clarify that was just something she animated, not real. He shows her the scene, and Ella, unsure of what's even happening, gets upset and wants to leave. At his place, the reality breaking continues. While in the shower, she starts rubbing her leg, and the skin peels right off as though it's made of wax. And when lifting up her fingers, we see it was all just in her mind. Ella Ella still finds no solace, looking rattled throughout the whole day until sleep finally takes over. She comes to back in bed at her place, hearing footsteps. The girl doll strolls in and goes right for the bed. Ella appears frozen, as though experiencing sleep paralysis. The doll climbs right up on the mattress and goes up to her leg, Ella shuddering in terror. The doll grabs at her leg and tears it right open. At breakfast, Tony can tell that she didn't sleep well and tries to convince her that what she saw isn't real. Yeah, she replies lifelessly. He tells her it's okay to have fun sometimes too, and even manages to get her to chuckle. He wants to do something normal with her, but Ella can't help but be distracted, eyeing a girl slurping down her milkshake, reminding her of her own little determined director tyrant. She tries to collect herself in the restroom and is soon joined by someone whistling, going right for the stall next to her. The girl asks if she wants to hear the rest of the story, and Ella has had enough, telling her to leave her alone. I don't want to make your movie anymore. She blips suddenly back at Tom's apartment, and Ella now considers maybe she did give up too quickly. She admits that she doesn't know what to do. The project has consumed her thoughts. Well, there is still that gig with his sister, and she decides to check it out despite her initial hesitation. The studio itself is quite impressive, with multiple stop-motion projects all in the works. When is the last time you saw a stop-motion advertisement of any kind? 1965? Anyway, it's even worse than she imagined, as she is given the lowly task of assembling an army of eyeballs well below her talents. She gets to rolling out eyes, and some other dude says he knows all about her mom's work. He chuckles that it must have been amazing growing up in that environment, the moment soon turning awkward. Obviously, it was the environment and her mother that basically caused all of Ella's issues, kind of the whole thing here. Bit more on that later. She wanders out in the break area and discovers another familiar looking set. It has more than a coincidental resemblance to her own, which Poppy did get a peek of. She defends that it was just an inspiration. Besides, she offered her a job earlier and she spat in her face. Ella turns aggressive, growling, "It's mine!" and shoves her away. She descends upon the set and the director pulls her off, her limbs flailing desperately. Well, that didn't go well. Now word from this week's sponsor, Factor. With Factor and their tasty, quick-to-prep meals, it's easier than ever to start eating better. You got 2 minutes to spare? Because that's all the time it takes to get to grubbing with Factor's restaurant-quality meals. Even better, there's no prep of any kind required, and cleanup couldn't be easier. Just toss it when you're done. And boom, you're ready to get on with the day. You can also personalize your orders, choosing how many meals you want per week, selecting from over 35 weekly options, with everything from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and even keto options. It's also cheaper than takeout. Plus, you know, it's gonna be fresh and never frozen. They have even more to offer with tons of add-ons to boot, like easy options for breakfast, midday bites, and more. So why not give Factor a try for yourself and see just how easy and delicious meals can be. As a special offer for our viewers, head to factormeals.com/ending50 and use code ending50 to get 50% off. That's code ending50 at factormeals.com/ending50 to get 50% off. Hoping for some kind of control, she snaps photos of her comatose mother's hands, changing their placement bit by bit, just like with her dolls. Surprisingly, her mom croaks, "Wonderful medium, isn't it? It brings dead things back to life." Ella is concerned. What happens when they take on a life of their own? Is she scared? Ella admits that she is either way, whether she carries on or if she doesn't. Poor Poppet, her mom coos. Such a morbid imagination you have. Quite importantly, Suzanne smiles wistfully, saying that she must take after her, the key difference between them being she can control that darkness. This informs us that there were already inherited issues Ella was bestowed by her mother, in addition to their already quite toxic relationship. Ella loses it on her, scowling, "Of course you'd think that. Look at you now. I'm the one living my life. It's my turn." Her mom can't help but cackle, excusing her of not being able to control anything. You're a puppet caught in your strings. If it's not Suzanne pulling them, then it's somebody else. And of course, you know what happens when they are done playing with the puppet. They put it back in the box. Ella looks away, and her mom is still comatose, meaning that quite revealing conversation only occurred in Ella's mind. There are two major sides of what Suzanne was discussing here. It's true that at this point, Ella is truly incapable of acting on her own accord. She needs someone to pull the strings, so to speak. That used to be her mother, but in her absence, that dark side of her created the little girl, another master to pull her strings to its whims. Weird that it's actually also Ella, but again, she's indulging in that morbid imagination that her mother warned of. And to me, the little girl is a physical embodiment of that dormant part of herself. They get back to filming, and it's time to film the second night. This time, the Ash Man comes back and touches her. Ella tries to change the story. That's not what happens. The girl escapes, and he does not get her. Hoping for a positive outcome, also for herself, the girl reiterates that isn't how the story goes, and you can't change it. Ella once more tries to assert dominance, and the girl folds her arms disappointed. She does go forward with her own version, animating the same scene but changing the outcome. The Ash Man comes to the window, but this time saunters right by. The girl stares intently, and the Ash Man Man breaks through, banging and rattling everything in the apartment. Ella gets to her feet, and the lights all start going nuts. They all cut out, leaving only a sickly green glow. She approaches the set and moves some leaves away, revealing something buried within. A hand reaches out from the earth, and a real Ashman has been brought to life, emerging from the set. Ella goes to run, only to snap her ankle like a twig. Her wax doppelganger falls to the ground, backing away from the relentless Ashman. She dives through another hole, finding herself in an odd gold material covered environment. She struggles to get through the hole, and the Ashman reaches for her with its stakey hand. She can't get through, as both Ella and her doppelganger are touched by the Ashman. He vomits a weird egg, the same one seen in the opening, and shoves it down Ella's throat, perhaps impregnating her with its own darkness and proving that indeed Ella can't change her story. She is seen convulsing on the floor, whimpering and crying. That egg floats by, and the girl walks up to further prove the futility of trying to change things. "See, I told you," she tells her in a sing-songy voice. Ella then hears another muffled voice telling her to follow their finger. She's in the hospital and was apparently found wandering near the apartment building. She's really losing touch with reality now, like something really bad is definitely gonna happen. Tom is there, and she knows what he's thinking. No, the gash on her leg wasn't on purpose. He struggles to find what to say, and doesn't want her to not be creative, but maybe she could find a better outlet for it, like doing music videos for his band. She can't help but crack a smile, cruelly telling him that he's not a musician. He puts on a suit every day and goes to his other job. There's definitely something judgmental about Ella when it comes to artistic people that aren't just like dying and making nothing from their creativity. They're basically all scum of the earth, which really sounds like something Suzanne would believe. It's art or nothing, narc. Get your suit and get out of here. Tom goes right for the jugular. You think you're some genius animating a steak and a dead fox? Who the heck wants to see that? Well, good point, really. The actual point being, striving for that moment of artistic perfection can come at a significant cost, and well, can also make you look like a total loon. You lose yourself to the art. Careful. Tom, who's actually been quite supportive so far, has reached his limit. He wanted to help her, but not no more. He snatches her keys, telling her he's going to delete the movie and throw everything away so she can finally be done with all this madness. She plays into this, just asking for her to do it at least. Him conceding that they'll do it together. Yeah, I think she's just saying what he wants to hear, and she's going by herself. Sorry, Tom. There is more news that will only allow Ella to descend deeper into her madness. Suzanne has passed away. The machinery hooked up to her is silent now, knowing that she is gone for good. Well, one puppet master is gone, only to be replaced by another. Ella busts open the apartment door, stumbling into her place. See, told you. She checks the set, and it is as before. No life-size Ashman either, just a scene as they left it. The director complains the fox meat isn't playing anymore. They need something fresher and, you know, more bleedy, pushing Ella even further. She looks remiss on the couch and asks the girl to come over. "I want to look at you," she says. She pushes her hair back and wraps her hands around her throat. The girl starts choking, and Ella whimpers but does not relent. There's a telltale squelch, and the girl goes limp, Ella letting out a desperate sigh of relief. Well, no, you can't kill something that doesn't really exist, and the girl is back, hoping that she got that out of her system. Ella laughs, which quickly turns to tears, really understanding how impossible it is to escape her situation. The girl takes her in her arms, assuring her that it's okay, we're nearly there. Ella is terrified. What happens on the third night? The girl again comforts her not to be scared. It's gonna be so worth it, and it's gonna be something only you could have made to boot. Ella's whole motivation, really. Now she pushes her hair back, telling her all great artists put a bit of themselves into their work. From the chest, all of their creations come to life and hoof their way to a spot on the couch, watching on for the finale in excitement. The girl unwraps her bandages, revealing stitches right where the doll did its thing earlier. She wants her to literally put a piece of herself into her art, requiring a quite painful sacrifice. Ella tears the flesh open and digs deep, picking at her interior bits. At that moment, there are footsteps and keys jangling, and Tom, along with his sister, enter to quite a sight. She yells for them to go and yanks out a piece of her tendon or something. The siblings spring into action, picking Ella up along with their equipment like a crazy-ass sack of potatoes. The girl yells for them to stop. They're gonna ruin everything. They carry her to the staircase, and Ella goes ballistic, kicking Poppy right in the face and shoves her boyfriend down the stairs. Polly attempts to run, and she snatches her leg. She jams her thumb into the fresh wound, Ella yowling in pain. In retaliation, Ella retrieves the tripod and bludgeons her repeatedly. She then takes the quite impressively pointy end and tears her throat apart, really getting that spike up in there. Blood's shooting everywhere, it's pretty gross. Ella comes to a shockingly alive Tom, which she takes care of by snuffing out his breath, reminiscent of her gag in bed prior. But now, you know, actually deadly. And man, she has really lost it at this point, huh? Hard to come back from 2 cold-blooded murders. The deed done, Ella takes a moment to catch her breath, the girl looking on. She heaves both bodies back into her place, and the girl is pleased. This is even better than she hoped for. Ella tears open a pant leg and fetches her box cutter, proceeding to dig into the flesh. Afterwards, the flat is looking more and more like a funeral parlor. Maggots now crawling all over the fox's corpse, plus a whole new batch of victims' blood blood spread all over the walls. She did put their flesh to good use, constructing new, even more life-size, detailed, and impressively hideous versions of her characters. Now that's disturbing. As Ella puts the finishing touches on her monster piece, the girl asks if she's ready. She backs up woozily, and her creation comes alive. The Ashman looks towards her and goes towards his victim. Even now, Ella is still hopeful that her doppelganger will somehow survive the situation. Isn't she gonna do something? The girl tells her to cram it and watch. The Ashman looms over its wax victim, but then turns its attention towards Ella. For once, even the little girl is shocked by this development. This wasn't supposed to happen. Ella hides in a closet, and the Ashman soon comes knocking. It tears the doors open, eyeing her hungrily as Ella whimpers. She closes her eyes, seemingly resigned to her fate, seeing that floating egg again. The Ashman chitters, and the egg warbles. Ella digs into her face, peeling it away, now made of wax just like her figures. She holds the pieces in offering to the Ashman. He munches down, but is still peckish, and scoops out the rest of her waxy visage, leaving her looking like a melted candle. The egg cracks, revealing bloody goo within. She's back in the forest, upside down now. Ella stumbles upon a house just like in the film, effectively becoming the puppet version of herself. She walks into the cabin, an exact recreation of the set. The wall is covered in red, a lonely table, and that chest. What is in there? The girl is watching the completed movie on the computer, and Ella joins her to watch. They flash through horrifying images of the ash creature devouring the blonde doll's face. The camera then pans over to Ella lying bloody on the floor, still clutching her precious remote to snap images. She shakily stares upwards and ceases movement, dying. The Ella watching looks on indifferently, unaffected by her own death. Recalling Suzanne's whole Cyclops thing, Mrs. Cyclops sees her destiny, and at seeing her own death, it's not what she wants, but the outcome appears inevitable. As an obvious parallel to Ella's own plight, repeatedly she tries to escape the predetermined outcome, but no matter what she tries, things wind up exactly as expected. Her fate is unavoidable. Now this is a pretty universal idea, but there is a way of how it specifically relates to Ella. She had hoped to be able to become her own person, only to come to understand that she never can. Although her darkness is satisfied, the girl smiling that she loves the movie. Unfortunately in the end, just as her mother stated, Ella doesn't really have a purpose of her own, despite all of her trying. She returns to her place in the toy chest, just another puppet waiting to be manipulated, or brought back to life when it's needed. It's especially sad when she closes the coffin on herself, peeking out until the final moment and she is gone. That'll do it for this time, but why not check out that video over there? You're gonna love it. And if you have any other requests, let me know by sending them on any of my social media accounts at FoundFlix. Thanks for watching, see y'all next time.